Welcome to the Get Clear Beauty podcast, where we unpack the questions about aesthetic treatments most people are afraid to ask. How much they cost, what's worth it, what's overhyped, and how to choose the right provider. I'm Danielle, the founder of Get Clear Beauty, and I am also your host of the Get Clear Beauty podcast. In each episode, I sit down with an aesthetic treatment provider and ask straightforward questions about their favorite treatment they perform. We're gonna get the tea from the providers performing these treatments every single day. Let's dive in. I can tell you all about the Get Clear Beauty company, the podcast, and what to expect going forward as you listen to all of these episodes. I am an aesthetic fiend. I am so obsessed with aesthetics, so much so that recently my mom was unpacking some old boxes growing up, and she sent me a picture of a report I did in high school on plastic surgery. I have always been into aesthetics. I always want the latest and greatest. I have spent over $150,000 on myself and my beauty routines, surgeries, and all sorts of treatments. And a few months ago, I was getting my routine Botox appointment and I was paying $10 a unit. I'm not going to lie, I used a Groupon, which I was totally okay with. And a few days later, I went to my dermatologist for my routine skin check. And out of curiosity, I asked her how much she charged for Botox. And she said $20 a unit. And I asked her if she publishes those prices anywhere. She said, no, you need to schedule a consultation to come in to hear the pricing for her Botox. I was lucky enough to hear it because I was just there in the office already. And I thought to myself, why is she charging $20 a unit? And why is the person down the street charging $10 a unit? Yes, I was using a Groupon, but even without the Groupon, there's charging $12 to $15 a unit. There's a big discrepancy in the pricing. The lack of pricing transparency is really what stuck out to me. I thought, okay, I can understand why a board certified dermatologist might be charging $20 a unit. And I can understand why a med spa down the street is charging, let's say 10 to 15. But why isn't that pricing readily available to anyone? I can go buy a car and the pricing is on the sticker on the car. I could go buy a boat and it's same thing. I can go buy a house, same thing. I can know the price easily. Why is it that I have to jump through hoops to find out how much aesthetic treatments cost? Same thing with filler, lasers. And then when you take it even further into surgeries, yes, surgical treatments are going to vary person to person depending on the needs. But I thought to myself, and I asked my plastic surgeon, isn't there a starting point, right? Shouldn't we know this doctor has a baseline that they charge for a nose job? This doctor has a baseline that they charge for a boob job. I figured, why not publish the starting point of the surgical treatments? And then I started to realize, how would even somebody go to find an aesthetic treatment? We've all been there. You go to Google, Botox near me, and you get a ton of different providers. Not all of them have the pricing on their website. You're opening tabs, reading reviews. You're checking with the group chat. Hey, has anyone gone to this provider, that provider? Who do you use for Botox? That is literally the way people are finding aesthetic providers. Maybe you're also checking in a Facebook group, which forget it. You're going to read through 40 comments to find out where to go get Botox. Why is all of this not consolidated? So that's what I built, Get Clear Beauty, an aesthetic treatment marketplace where you can go on, search by treatment, budget, and zip code, and you will see a list of providers near you offering that treatment. And right now, estimated pricing. As providers claim their listings, they can include their actual pricing so we can have real price transparency in the aesthetic world. It has been wild to build this. I personally do not have any other history in aesthetics other than I have had a lot of treatments. So I've learned a ton about aesthetics in the past few months building this. I also don't know how to code. I had to build all of this from scratch. So yes, I'm very proud. As I've learned more about aesthetics in this process, I thought we also need to complement getclearbeauty.com with a podcast where I am going to interview aesthetic treatment providers and ask them questions that people might be afraid to ask, or just anything that might be related to their favorite treatments. So each episode will be dedicated to a treatment, and that provider will be answering all of the hot questions related to those treatments. I am super excited about this because, like I said, I am just obsessed with aesthetic treatments. Let me tell you some of the things I've gotten done in the past.
15 or so years. I started in 2013 with a breast reduction, and I call that my gateway surgery. I had very large breasts. I was a 34G. I'm 5'2". The time I weighed about 140 pounds, maybe, which those were still, either way, some massive boobs. And my insurance said they would pay for it. And so I definitely went through with it. In addition, because I was getting the breast reduction, I thought, let's even out my stomach. And I did liposuction on the front part of my abdomen. I was so happy with the results. I went from a 34G to a 34D, and oh my God, it was like a lightning bolt to my confidence. I've always been a confident person, but just feeling like the outside matched the inside now, and I wasn't like in pain. I wasn't trying to cover everything up. Oh my gosh, game changer. Plus, the actual recovery was very easy for me, which might have been a bad thing in hindsight because every surgery I've ever had has been pretty much a breeze. So I kind of got that taste of plastic surgery not being that difficult to recover from and was like, let's go. So the recovery was a week of drains, and I was out of work for 2 weeks and then 2 more weeks of working from home. But it was seriously so simple. The worst part, I think, was actually the liposuction because, they jab you so hard. All of it, though, super simple, such a breeze. I was so happy. Fast forward 2 years later, and again, I'd only had the front part of my abdomen done with liposuction when I got the breast reduction because he couldn't flip me, right? He had done the boobs, and then you can't flip somebody when they just had their boobs done. So I had to go back in and do my love handles and like lower back area. And then I also had him do the backs of my thighs. So that was my second surgery. And in between that, I had also started Botox. I had also started lip filler. The lip filler I was into. However, when he did the liposuction of my lower back and thighs, he said, why don't we just inject some fat into your lips? That way you don't have to keep up with lip filler. And I was like, let's go. He injected the fat into my lips, which is considered a fat transfer. It looked pretty much insane. And then it didn't last. So I just kept up with lip filler. Since then, I have lost over 20 pounds. And anytime you do a fat transfer, if you're losing weight, your body can't dictate where the fat loss is going to go from. And so my lips, it lost the fat. So I had that surgery. And then again, from there, I was really just keeping up with my Botox, my filler, and that sort of a thing. But I had started to lose more weight. My weight had always gone up and down. Additionally, when you have liposuction, you are going to have loose skin. So I had a lot of insecurities about the skin on my body because it was very loose. And I just thought this needs to be tight, and you can't do enough sit-ups to tighten loose skin. It just doesn't exist. So fast forward to 2022, I went to the Dominican Republic because I needed a lot of surgery to tighten everything. I had loose skin from my arms, my stomach, my thighs, literally everything. And I went to the Dominican Republic and I call it basically a full body makeover. He gave me a tummy tuck, refreshed my boobs, which is a whole nother story that I'll get to after this. He did liposuction under my arms and did the vaser. So it tightened the skin. He did liposuction, like I call it 360 all the way around, and just really snatched everything up. As for my boobs, they had started to really fall flat, and I felt like I needed a lift. But I also, not gonna lie, wanted that porn star fake boob look. And so he said, let's put some implants in, it'll perk them right up. And it did. I was so happy with the results. Everything was so great. I recovered really well. I also got my hip dips filled in, another fat transfer. I did not do a full BBL because I am genetically blessed with my backside being nice and robust, but I wanted those hip dips filled in. Fast forward, and GLP-1 comes out. Well, it was already out, but it's on the marketplace for weight loss. And I started taking that and lost more weight. Additionally, the scar from the tummy tuck did not heal very well, and it left like a weird flap below my belly button. So I went back into surgery to have that corrected, and he did a little bit more liposuction above my belly button in my abdomen. So that was in 2023. 10 out of 10. I did that in the United States. That was an excellent experience. Again, I'm like, this is all so easy. why, why not just keep going? And again, throughout all this time, I'm keeping up with the Botox, the filler, and laser treatments about once a year. Super happy. And that went really well. Um, Throughout this time, I'm losing more weight. However, my body is still looking really good. And the tummy tuck, I think it was snatched so well that everything's just looking nice and tight. Eventually, I did lose those hip dips, RIP. I'm kind of sad about that because it does kind of look weird, or it looks normal, I should say. But that's that when it comes to fat transfers. Again, when you lose weight, you can't dictate where the fat loss comes from. I had such a great experience with my surgeon in the United States that did the tummy tuck revision. It was in outside Philadelphia. I really, 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 really was insecure about my upper eyelids. And I thought it is time to do an upper bluff. So I went and saw him. I did an upper bluff in 2024. That was amazing. It was so simple. You do not go under general anesthesia for it. It was very easy. I recovered super fast. I'm obsessed with the way my eyelids look now. I mean, it makes such a huge difference on my face. I feel like it really created a more youthful look. And it was really easy. So I was like, again, I just do really well with surgeries, which is maybe not the best quality to have. So that was in 2024. And then in 2026, the implants I had put in 2022 were really dragging down. I did not like the way they looked or felt. They did not stay up. They did not look like that porn star fake look that I wanted. And so I talked to my doctor in New York City and I explained to her what had been going on. And she said, okay, let's make them a little bit smaller and let's put in the internal mesh bra because that will hold them up. Because what's happening is your skin laxity is weak and it's dragging them down. Great. Did that surgery in January of this year, and immediately I was obsessed. They were so perky and up, and then they started to fall. So, speaking with her, she really reassured me that maybe I'm just not meant to have that look that I have been chasing for the past 4 or 5 years, which is definitely really sad because sometimes you have this vision in your mind of how you want things to look, but they're just not going to look that way. I'm now just living with them. This was only 6, 7 months ago, so I haven't made any decisions of what I'm going to do going forward. They don't look terrible. It's not like they're deformed, and there's nothing that my doctor could have done any differently. My skin laxity just cannot support the look I'm trying to achieve. That's an anatomical thing. That's that. It's very frustrating, but sometimes we can't have it all. So that was the last surgery I did. And the surgeries all cost about over $50,000. It would have been more if I had done those Dominican Republic procedures in the United States, but I have found really great doctors for medical tourism. I also, the most recent surgery, did the fellowship program in New York City. And so my breast lift with the exchange of implants and the internal mesh bra was only $5,000 with a board certified doctor who is just getting her fellowship in she's a breast fellow, so she's a breast expert, and she was amazing, amazing. And one thing I will highlight about her and something that stuck out to me when I went back during my post-op appointments and expressed my concerns to her about that they weren't looking the way I wanted, I wasn't dismissed. She didn't try to, explain it away. She literally said, "I hear you. I see you. What you see." And we talked about like what I could do going forward, which were kind of some crazy ideas. Not they were crazy, but like for me to put cadaver skin in to hold everything up. And I thought this is off the deep end. But that's something I think is important when you're speaking with your doctors is making sure that you feel seen and heard and not dismissed, which is really great. So about 51,000 of the spend over the past 10 years has been on surgeries. The recurring maintenance costs come to about 100,000, which that is the Botox, the filler. I've had Sculptra on my face. I have had laser treatments. I have had microblading on my eyebrows. I've had lip blushing. I've been getting lash extensions for about 15 years. My lashes have never been bare. Regular manicures and pedicures accounted for over $30,000 of the costs. The lashes were about $26,000. So $65,000 were lashes and nails and pedicures alone, which is wild to think about. And then the rest is just the routine maintenance of Botox filler, Sculptra, lasers, etc. Crazy. But I am obsessed with aesthetics. I recently was looking at a picture of me in 2013 before I had done pretty much anything. I was like, oh my gosh, I look so different. I had no upper lip. I had no eyebrows, and my eyelids were already droopy. It's just so crazy, like what's achievable. And not to say that I wasn't confident in who I was. I've always been a confident person, but I definitely felt like the outside didn't necessarily match the inside. And I'm a firm believer that just because you want to make some tweaks to your outside, it doesn't mean you don't love yourself. Doesn't mean you have low self-confidence. It just means, you know what? I'm a little insecure about my low-hanging eyelids. I'm going to touch those up. Or, I'm a little insecure about not having an upper lip. I'm going to get some lip filler. Why not? If I can afford to fix it, why wouldn't I fix it? That is something that drives me nuts, though, is when I hear people say, oh, you must be insecure. You must not love yourself. Why don't you age gracefully? Why should I age gracefully? Who said I don't love myself? Who said I'm not confident? None of that. Throughout all of this, there's been a lack of price transparency. Luckily, when you go to the Dominican Republic, actually, that's when I did have price transparency. They were like, here's exactly what your surgeries are going to cost. I still had to do the research and everything, but they lay it all out for you. It's been so eye-opening to reflect back on my own procedures and see the hoops I had to jump through to figure out pricing, costs, and that sort of a thing when it came to some of the aesthetic treatments and surgical costs. That is why I'm so obsessed with Get Clear Beauty, which the goal is to have as much pricing transparency in the marketplace as possible. And I'm so excited to dive deeper into different aesthetic treatments with aesthetic providers. You can make sure to follow Get Clear Beauty on all socials. That is just Get Clear Beauty on YouTube, Get Clear Beauty on TikTok, Get Clear Beauty on Instagram, Get Clear Beauty on Facebook. And you can listen to podcasts everywhere podcasts are distributed on your favorite platform. Thank you so much for listening to our first little intro episode. I cannot wait to share with you all things beauty and aesthetic related on future episodes.